Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Donovan, and today we're going to do a little bit of a sibling rivalry comparison between two fantastic GPS smartwatches from Garmin. So on my left-hand side, I have the brand new Garmin Forerunner 245 Music that I've had maybe for 2 to 3 weeks now, and in the right, I have the Garmin Fenix 5 Plus, and I've had this one I think since November roughly. So we're just going to do a quick comparison. This video is for those of you that are maybe considering picking up one of the two watches, but you don't know which one you want to get. And probably the reason why you're thinking about that is because the Fenix 5 Plus is down, I think, $150. So they actually have it down, or maybe it's $250, but it's down to $500 right now. So pretty awesome price for this watch. Originally, when it came out, I think it was $650 or $750. I can't remember. When I picked it up, it was actually only $550. It was like a Black Friday kind of deal. Whereas the Garmin Forerunner 245 Music just came out at $350. So they're similar in a lot of ways, but there are also definitely some differences that we'll discuss in this video. So the first thing I want to discuss, obviously we've already talked about price. Next thing I want to talk about is just the size and the build of the two watches. So without a doubt, the Fenix 5 Plus is the much more rugged design. So you can see this one is a lot of metal here, so it's going to protect that screen. You can also get a sapphire glass version of the watch. It's going to be more expensive. This one does also have quick release bands, but these are Garmin specific quick release bands, this is just a very beefy, heavy watch. So I'll be honest with you, the first 2 or 3 days that I wore this watch, it took a little bit of getting used to, because before wearing this, I was wearing an Apple Watch Series 4. And then the Garmin Forerunner 245 Music, you can see it's much smaller. It's definitely made out of plastic. Different heart rate sensor, which I actually find both of them to be very accurate, so I don't really see a difference in terms of the heart rate sensor. But in terms of the button configuration, they both have that 5-button configuration from Garmin. Neither of them are touchscreen, of course, and I think that's a good thing. That's a personal opinion, because I still do have, this is the Garmin Vivo Active 3 Music. This is my very first Garmin watch, and I definitely prefer the non-touchscreen that you get over here on the Forerunner and on the Fenix 5 Plus. But yeah, so anyways, the 5-button configurations there on both of them. This one has quick release bands as well, and I'm actually using the bands from my Vivo Active 3 Music here. I basically just swapped the bands. So this one I bought in white, this one I bought in black, so I just swapped the bands, so you can see kind of that cool two-tone color there. But anyways, in terms of the build, this one is definitely, if you have a smaller wrist, this one probably is going to be the better option for you. There is a smaller version of the Fenix 5 line, the Fenix 5S Plus, a little bit smaller than the one you see here. I believe that one's 44 millimeter, where this one is 47 millimeter in diameter, so a little bit smaller. So that's definitely a big difference between the two, the size. I will also say one other thing that I'm not a huge fan of with the Forerunner 245 Music. It's not a big deal, but the buttons on here definitely feel a lot more mushy. They don't have as good of a click when you push them, where this one they feel much more solid. So when I'm pushing these, I can definitely feel that I'm pushing them, and it doesn't have as much mushiness to it. I'm not really exactly sure what the difference is in terms of the buttons, because they both look the same, but this one for some reason when I'm pushing them, they're just not a good click to it. So just a little side note there. Now, in terms of battery life, that's actually not as big of a difference as you would think it would be, because if you look at the two watches, obviously you would expect this one to have a much bigger battery and to last a lot longer. So just real quick, on the back of the box, you can see here, they say 12 days in watch mode, 19 hours in GPS mode. That's just GPS mode. With GPS Plus Music, they claim 8 hours on the Fenix 5 Plus. Over here on the Forerunner 245 Music, they have the same stats here. So they say 7 days on watch mode, 6 hours on GPS plus music mode, and then also just to quickly add to that, I think it's like 17 hours on only GPS mode. The point here being that it's actually, when you're using the two, I find that with the Fenix 5 Plus, I was generally charging it about every 3 to 4 days, and that's with like heavy running, 50 to 60 miles a week, depending on what obviously you just decide is heavy for you. But with the Forerunner 245 245 music, it's really only about every 3 days that I'm charging it. So I really don't see a huge difference in battery life, and really on paper there really isn't that big of a difference in battery life between the two. So I wouldn't really use that as a guide as to which one you're going to buy, because honestly the battery life on both of these is fantastic. Now in terms of fitness features, that's where there's definitely some differences. So obviously I think one of the biggest negatives of this watch that a lot of people are talking about, the Forerunner 245 Music, is the fact that there's no barometric altimeter, which means your altitude is not going to be nearly as accurate as what you're going to get on something that has the barometric altimeter like the Fenix 5 Plus. So I haven't found many of my runs to be too far off in terms of altitude with the Forerunner 245 Music, but if you're someone who lives at altitude and you do a lot of hill climbing or mountain climbing, obviously this one is not going to be your best bet, because of the fact that it's never going to be super accurate in terms of your elevation, if you care about that. Now, if you don't care about your elevation in a run, then it's not going to be a big deal. So if you're someone who just, I run in an area that's very flat, and so I don't get a lot of elevation on any of my runs, regardless of where I go. I don't really care that much about it, but there are occasions where I go out to do some hills, and it's nice to get kind of an elevation count when you're using the Fenix 5 Plus. So anyways, that's just one major difference. A second major difference would be, and this is pretty huge, this one has maps on it, also has navigation on it, and so you can actually, if I go into like a workout here, I'll scroll down and you can see here that we have maps, obviously. We also have that navigate. We also have a feature called track me. And all of those are features that you're not going to get over here on the Forerunner 245 Music, because there's no maps native to this watch. So that's obviously going to be a big difference. So if you're somebody who does a ton of hiking, maybe on new trails that you're not familiar with, and maybe you don't want to bring out some maps, this would be a great option. Whereas over here on the 245 Music, you're going to want to make sure you know where you're going before you're going out, because it doesn't have the option of maps available. So that's just one thing. Another one to mention is that, and this is kind of a strange thing, but this one has pulse ox. This one does not, unless you pay for the 5X Plus. So the 5X Plus does have pulse ox, whereas this one doesn't. And pulse ox, if you're not familiar with it, is basically something that's going to tell you whether your blood or your body has acclimated to altitude. So this one has that feature. This one does not. So kind of interesting that the more expensive watch in this case is missing a feature, but that's because this one's newer. So all the newer watches are coming out with pulse ox available. All right, so some other features to mention that I haven't already talked about. The Fenix 5 Plus does also have Garmin Pay, so I've never personally used it ever because I have it on my phones. I don't really ever use Garmin Pay, but that is a feature you get over here on the Fenix 5 Plus, as you can see right there. And then there's that advanced mapping that I mentioned over here. You notice that it's not a feature that you see here. Now, I will mention it does have courses, so you can set up courses before your run. So if you already know a course, you can actually put them in there and you can use that. But this one has them all built right into the watch. Literally, when you start up the watch, you're going to download a bunch of maps, and they'll update when you plug it into your computer. And so then you don't really ever have to look up maps before you go out, although you probably will anyways, because I do. And then as far as music, that is one other thing I want to mention here. As far as music, they both mention 500 songs. Obviously, they both work. Personally, I'm just using Spotify in both of them, but they use iHeartRadio. You can also use Deezer as a music source for these watches. But in terms of music, I haven't found really a huge difference. Both of them work the exact same. So if I go up here into my music, we'll go ahead and hit this, and we'll go into our library. So this is using Spotify. You have to have a premium subscription to Spotify, but as I scroll down, you'll see that we have, I put 4 playlists on it, and I can put more. It says 500 songs, but honestly, it seems like you can probably put more than that, because I know for instance, on my Garmin Fenix 5 Plus, I've had, I think, well over 500, even though it says 500 on here. But anyways, let me know if there's anything I'm missing in here, if there's any corrections. Just let me know down in the comment section. If you're interested in picking up either of these, I'll have a link down in the description for where you can pick it up on Amazon. It helps out the channel when you do that. So anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I will see you all next one. Peace.